27 Kid.
Peacock.
And this is the Retroscope Podcast, where culture, creativity, and conversation all come together. It's Monday, February 15th. This is the day after Valentine's Day. Is that still a day that you get excited about?
Nope.
Me neither. I don't think I got excited about Valentine's since probably elementary school.
Yeah.
You remember the Valentine card?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Spend that night before getting your Valentine card that you done sent your mom to go get. You put down all the ladies that you want to be your Valentine, and then you go walk into class and pass them out with that big smile on your face and hope the one that you done had your eye on give you a card back.
Now, I didn't do all of that except for the night before thing, but I didn't get in.
You didn't care about all the other stuff?
I didn't get into that. But I'm living that life right now. You know, my three get cards out.
Oh, they still doing it?
They still do it.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot. That's when you first step into your playerism. Now that is also the phase where the infamous FDB phase comes into play. You know what FDB is?
What's FDB?
You got to Google it, Simone. But that's a famous song made by Young Dro.
Oh, I know that
FDB.
That is. What?
Yeah, for FDB. That's where it originated at, because if you don't get the card from the girl that you want to get that card from, you be like, F that B.
Oh, my God. That's messed up.
F that B. She didn't give me no card, so
BG,
it's a good time.
I didn't know you had all that in you. A
lot of relationships was built around that. A lot of hearts were broken. But you know, this is a whole nother phase now. So you say you still don't get excited about it, even in your adulthood?
No, not really. No, I don't have a lot to offer about Valentine's Day other than I sit down with my children and they write cards out. So
Cupid ain't coming to see you this year? Didn't come to see you, he ain't make it?
I mean, in the form of my children, yeah. Like that's it. I
guess we in the same boat though. I jumped out there. I said, Cupid, hit me one time. Cupid dropped his head, turned around, and walked off. I don't really know what that means, but the way that I'm interpreting it is that it's a lot of stuff that I need to get right with myself before I can kill a Cupid arrow.
You know exactly what that means. You know exactly what
I don't know what Cupid trying to tell me, but it seems like it's something I need to get right before I can find this love.
Cupid's like, get your together. I'll see you next year. We'll try this again next time.
Yeah, man. So another Valentine passed me by. I also remember now one time we did jump it off in college. Now I don't know who corner idea it was, but it was sophomore year in college, and I had my two roommates, Tim and GCB. What up? And somebody came up with the bright idea that we was gonna hit them with some. I don't know. I can't remember if we did I think we did flowers that year. So you got us, because we used to ride the transit, so you got us passing out those flowers to all the honeys like Happy Valentine's Day, Happy Valentine's Day. I don't know who idea that was. I got a strong feeling that it was probably mine because I was the more outspoken of the group. So anything to get brownie points, I was with it. But yeah, so that's probably the last time that I really, really engaged in full-fledged Valentine. It worked, though. It worked. I think a lot of people probably... It did.
What does work mean? What did
think
you
about
end up...
it? They was like, oh, that's so nice. And, you know, you had a lot of them that didn't have no Valentine. I'm like, I'm here for you, baby.
Oh.
I know you probably ain't got nobody, but here you go. Just from the 805D boys to you, Happy Valentine's Day.
I did not realize...
Hit me up.
I didn't realize this is how you were in college. Like, you never came across to me that way.
Hey man, you got to be stealth when you're out here in these streets like this.
But you were lightweight scheming on my friend though, right? Like
man,
you were trying to.
No, that's not. I still got a soft part in my heart about that. I screwed that up, I believe. That might have been my key to my dream. That might have been my key to my dream.
You know she listened to this, right?
I was young and dumb. Well, if she listened to it, just know. I wish it could have been different. I screwed that up. So, we ain't finna talk about that. Because that still affect me to this day.
Because do the people notice how we met?
Probably not. But, yeah, this is a strong Tuskegee University, Auburn University connection. Oh. Anyway. So I did screw that up. If you listen to this show, I'm glad to know that you listen to that show. Just know, I let a good one go. Simone,
if y'all can see his face right now.
That's how you gonna do your boy in this moment. I'm having a moment here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, she listened to the show for real though?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's right. All of them. All three of my homies. The crew.
I'm gonna hear about this again.
Yeah.
All right. So it's been another eventful week, and since we're talking about love, we might as well jump into a love triangle story featuring drum roll. Future, Mr. Russell Wilson, Dangerous, quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, and my boy Future. If you care anything about what goes on in the hood, in the hip-hop community, you would know that a few years back, Future and Ciara were an item. They were a couple. They were like the underground Jay-Z and B.
I knew you were going to say that.
They had all the, well, because it's the truth, they had all the makings of being the new, younger version of Jay-Z and B. You had Future representing the trap. You had a Ciara that's kind of from the hood, good girl, pretty, talented. They were going to balance each other out. It looked good for the A. So I had a lot of hopes. I liked what I saw. They had baby Future, and they were going on. But then a few years later, a lot of weird stuff started happening. You start seeing them. First, you got the announcement that they weren't together, and then you start over time seeing these subtle shots of them going at each other and basically signifying that the relationship was over. Future will say that she was trying to make him too Hollywood. She was trying to take him too far into that Hollywood circle, making him go to all these award appearances. They moved to California, so he was out of his element, and he felt like that affected his music. On the flip side, Ciara has been very critical about Future as a parent and as being available. I think there's also some rumors about him being a cheater and having a lot of different relationships with women. All this stuff is very much so alleged. But it got even realer this past week. Ciara tried to fuck up his commas.
Mm-hmm.
She hit him with a lawsuit of $15 million with $250,000 going toward her legal fees and retraction of some statements that he made. Future went on a Twitter rant. This B got control problems. That's how it started. FDB. This B got control problems. Simone, why you scratching that paper? You feeling some kind of way? You bubbling over?
I'm actually not bubbling over. My opinion of the whole Future Ciara thing is that Future he's met his match.
Think so?
I think he met his match, and I think it's one thing to kind of go back and forth about, what's best for the child, and you shouldn't be petty, and you shouldn't do this, and you shouldn't do that. Well, some people don't understand anything less than petty. Some people don't understand anything less than, all right, I'm going to put my foot on your neck in order for you to get it together and leave me alone. And I do think that, Ciara has taken a lot of his nonsense, and like you said, sort of him taking shots at her. This is the mother of your child, and you call her a bitch.
Yeah, he went on the road.
I mean, but then go so far as to say things like she's just using his son to put on a show, when the fact of the matter is she probably just upgraded, and she picked someone, and she's dating someone that's much different than him.
Yeah, he different. He way different.
He's way different. I mean, he really is. Like, upgrade is a matter of opinion, but he's way different. And by all accounts, he's not harmful to baby Future. You know what I mean? It's not like he's doing anything, and Future in his feelings and doesn't like it and got all types of things to say. And then he keeps talking. That's the thing, is like he keeps poking. He keeps talking that shit. And so she finally said, "Oh, okay. I'm going to get your money then. We're going to go to court." Because she doesn't need his money. Let's be clear about that. She doesn't need it.
And she made that clear. And the reason, what I've read, the reason why it's set so high to put on his mind in the future, no pun intended, frame from using, taking these shots and doing all this stuff in the media, because he was talking about he got to go through lawyers to see his baby, the fuckery for $15K a month. I just want baby Future. I've been silent for a year and a half. I ran out of patience. Get ready for this classic, suggesting that he probably going to make a few songs or something talking about the issue. Since they split apart, it's been real weird, and I'm a Future guy. And, of course, I kind of had some inkling that some of that stuff that he was true about, maybe her trying to take him too far to being out in the main light and the mainstream. I could kind of get with that, and I could see how that could be a little bit much.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of seeing the same thing with Russell Wilson. Because some of that stuff Russell Wilson was doing early on in the relationship, I'm like, man, how much more cornball can you be? Number one, I ain't no dancer. Now, I ain't no dancer. I hit him with that mean two-step when I walk in the spot. But, I mean, I do know what the whipping the nay-nay is. And I know my limitation. But that whipping that nay-nay that he did on that Nickelodeon show, that was disrespectful. Did you see it? Did you see it?
Fortunately, I haven't.
That was disrespectful. He ain't had no business up there doing that. He ain't on it, but that was a Ciara idea.
But see, let's talk about that.
Number two.
No.
What?
I, as a woman, especially an Erykah Badu fan, I take issue with that when people say, well, that was that woman's idea. That woman made him do this. That woman made him do that. How the hell that woman make him do something in a patriarchal society where he can go and do whatever he want to do and get away with it by mere male entitlement? That woman did not make him do anything. She might have suggested and he chose to do whatever.
And his nose was wide open. He ran up on that stage and looked crazy. But
that was him.
I ain't no judge. He did. Love make you do some crazy things. Number two, when they went to the White House and he just walk off and leave the lady, and she back there talking to the press, he was so out of place. Poor Russ. Russ was out of place. He didn't know what the hell going on. So just imagine that having that type of effect on him. Just imagine what type of effect it had on Future. But I'm not speaking no negativity. Everybody is entitled to their own way of loving and their own way of expressing it. It was just a little bit weird. But back to Future, though. And I think since then, I think Future's having a little issue with it. And I know it hurts when you have an ex, somebody that you have shared as much as having a child with, and you look at them with another dude, this dude pushing your baby around, they going to the training camp, he hugging on your son.
That ain't it.
That ain't it.
That ain't it. That ain't it. She is not losing sleep over him, and she letting him know she is not losing sleep. Because we all know he has multiple children, different women.
Yeah, for sure.
And those women are not in the limelight. I guess they're not Ciara. They're not performers, you know. So maybe they're a bit more dependent on him doing whatever he wants to do, or like him doing what he wants to do disturbs whatever they got going on. And Ciara has made it very clear that you ain't running nothing over here. And when you left or when we broke up, I was okay with that. I think that eats at him. I think it eats at him.
I have reason to agree with you on that because he
takes jabs at her. He keeps going.
Jabs.
He don't want her. I don't think he wants her.
You don't
anymore.
think he want her?
No, I don't think he wants her. I think he wants her to continue to want him, and she ain't doing it. She ain't doing it because I know you're a Future fan. I'm okay with some of the Future songs. You know, like I was never a hardcore fan or even not a hardcore hater either. You know, just like some songs are cool. But to listen to him when he interviews, it's like you try to sound smart. Like I'm sure he's a very smart person. He's a strong businessman, but it's that I'm going to sound as eloquent as possible, even though I'm high off lean. And
that's the new thing.
Yeah, like I'm high off lean, and my English and my grammar's not that great, but I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep saying, you know, I was trying to help her out. I was trying to do that. That's how he comes across. It's just like
Tip started that.
I know.
Tip started that.
But Tip is better at it.
You know, so it was crazy, and like I say, she hit him with that lawsuit, and basically just a lawsuit to make him chill on going on these rants in that format, using Twitter to basically defame her name is really what it is, and I would like for them, and I don't know if they've attempted to do this. Other thing, I don't know if how much of this is just promotional type stuff. This is always the thing we have to be careful of. People using their personal situations, taking advantage of our voyeurism, and they put it out here, and then it creates all this buzz and generates all this excitement, and then they drop a project because now we're trying to tune in to see, okay, well, what he gonna say about what type of gossip, what type of information is he gonna put out here in these streets, and so people will go and support the project. So you have to be careful about that. But I want them to work this out. I want Baby Future to be in a nurturing and a a environment that cultivates his growth. I want Russell Wilson to stop dancing. I want him to get focused on the football field. Now, other thing now that has been said, and your girl kind of get hit with this too, is that once you get a taste of them, your whole life changed.
What you mean?
So Erykah Badu and Ciara, as far as careers and stuff like that, they talk about the dudes ain't been the same after being in a relationship with these women. Ciara, you got to look at Bow Wow. Bow Wow ain't Bow Wow ain't been right. Future changing, and we got to watch and see. Russell Wilson had a
pretty. Has it not occurred to anybody? That
Russell Wilson had a pretty terrible season this year too. But he wasn't getting no poom poom.
Listen.
So I don't know what his problem was. He wasn't even hitting it. I'm listening. I digress.
That's the last time. Now I'm gonna sit quietly while you go on and on, or I hear another guy talk about, I don't know what she did to him. I don't know what she got going on. Like it's like she's some evil vessel meant to destroy brothers.
I know what it is.
But that's really not the case because my girl, Ibadu, everybody that she's come into contact with has actually been elevated. Whatever, it depends on how you look at it or what you think elevation is, but their game has been elevated. Like, I can give you an
3,000 went to another level.
Huh?
3,000, Dre 3,000 went to another. He did go to another level.
Yeah. Common did too. He, you know, it's a matter if you like Common. Okay. But like there was this ongoing joke, you know, when Kendrick Lamar, like right before To Pimp a Butterfly came out, it was that joke like when he performed with the don't look her in the eye, don't do this.
Don't look in the eye, dog.
No,
yeah.
they weren't dating, you know. So let's keep this. I'm not even putting that out there.
You're right.
But yeah, they kicked it for a while, and then we get To Pimp a Butterfly. Think about it. And then a lot of the major players on that album are connected to Erykah Badu in one way or another. So maybe she put them on to something. And maybe that's what it is. Like these women are putting these dudes on to things, even if it's something that they don't realize that they want or they think they want, and then they get it and it ain't really what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I'm just joking around. I believe that to be true. Like, you got to be prepared. Those are very, especially, man, if I had a chance, I'd let my life change for Erykah Badu. She can have what she want from me. So, and I think it really is, just comes down to the guys, us as men, being ready to deal with these women that are on another level, that are working on a higher frequency. You have to be in a place to be able to receive that and operate with it, because if you're not on that same frequency, you could get overtaken by it, and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and then you get, you stop being true to yourself, and we kind of talked about this in the pre-show, is kind of being at that self-realization, knowing who you are, because they have generally, well, what I see, especially from Erykah Badu, we'll keep right there, is someone that's is self-realized on a high level. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to be able to function with her in a collective like you would do with somebody that's still trying to figure it out.
The thing is, I think that's what's really unnerving for a lot of men and a lot of people. It's not even just men. There's a lot of people, period, is that you have a high number of women, everyday women, showing up that way. You know what I mean? Showing up very, like fully realized. And knowing what's going on, and then you might have people who they're attracted to it because it's unknown, and they don't know, they aren't there, they don't know what it is, but and
it's sexy. It comes off real sexy.
It's sexy, but it ain't easy. And I'm always working to be a fully realized person, so it's not a comfortable thing for me to say that it's just that's where I am. But I can say that my circle of friends are all, for the most part, fairly close to, if not fully realized. And the single ones, including myself, are not necessarily complaining about being single for extended periods of time, because it's not easy keeping your chakras aligned. You know what I mean? Like, it's not easy taking care of the things that society tells you aren't that important.
Right.
You know, like, and that's a maintenance, like your internal maintenance, and something that is just as important as your outer maintenance, and you have to go hard for it all the time. And if you're busy focusing on building yourself into the best person that you can be, you can't have people coming in that aren't ready. Because we can see them. I mean, it's clear. You can see when that person's not ready, and then at that point, it might be a decision made on, like, all right, I might entertain this for a little while, or like, nah, I'm not gonna even.
I'm gonna do something else.
Yeah.
Well, let's stay right here though, because she also was in the news for making a statement in Cosmopolitan about her and Russell Wilson's decision to refrain from sex in their relationship and waiting for marriage. But she was talking about being human and how tough it is to be, to look in his face and not have those urges. So it's been a tough road for her. Are these the type of things that we want to hear about?
I'm so uninterested when I hear these stories like this. Like, I'm not dismissing anyone choosing to be celibate. It's the fact that we're discussing whether or not they're celibate. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, but it's a big deal because people give power to it. So I'm always sitting with the side eye when I hear that. Like, ooh, yeah, she decided to not sleep with him. I think that whole ship sailed with Devon Franklin and Megan Good. Like, that was enough. We need one a generation. That was our poster children for celibacy before marriage, and it's something that you can use to your favor, or you can add something to the relationship. That's enough. Like, I don't care about Ciara and Russell and what they do in the.
I can see them saying, okay, well, we're gonna use our situation as being an example for other couples. I could see that as being potential rationale. I'm not so sure that that's what it is. But at the same token, it's like, why is that even something that you would openly discuss about your relationship? If you're going to do it, just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, and go on with it. But
you made a choice.
Once again,
you made a choice.
And we all come when we get into these potential relationships, or actually get into relationships. We talk about those things. How are we going to handle that? Are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? But was that in itself a tool used to sell and brand what they have going on? So, okay, you can get behind this movement. This is a pure way of us approaching relationships. So you can get behind us and everybody just fall in love. Then you got all these chicks going crazy. Why can't you be like Russell Wilson? Why can't we have a relationship like Ciara and Russell Wilson? Go sit your goddamn ass down somewhere.
Okay.
And I feel like that because I heard that.
Okay.
So if you've been following us for the last couple of weeks, you've been getting these little bits and pieces of my own personal experiences and rants. It's real. It's really happening out here. So that's why I kind of be like, man, stop putting that stuff on there, because you elevating all these people's mindset to copycat your relationship. And everybody ain't going to be able to function like that.
But, man, my question is, how is it that you are living this while you telling everybody about it? Isn't doesn't it mean more if you experience it? And then let's say maybe, they get married and they're together for the next 20 or 30 years, and someone asks them how, they got to where they were. Okay, you might say, well, I decided to not, we're going to be celibate or whatever. I don't want to hear about this as this is happening. I don't want to see your pictures on Instagram and y'all like on the beach and ain't got no clothes on and these sexy pictures, but in the next breath you talking about you ain't. You see what I'm saying? It's just like I don't want that in the back of my mind. And that's what I feel like you said, like with the whole marketing, publicity type thing. I think it's a plant. I think they were just trying to plant that in people's heads that this is a wholesome relationship. Mm. And I guess for something like that, it's no better court than the court of public opinion.
Court of public opinion, and it works. We're talking about it, so I guess it was effective. But
yeah.
Anyway,
like,
let's go on to the.
Care.
Man, I hope Future don't have to come up off 15 mil like that. Just pull them things off of the thing, apologize, man, and move on.
Well, I think that he should take his money and go get counseling. Because he got a problem. Because it's like, stop talking. Stop running your mouth. Stop talking. Yeah. Well, stop talking crazy about the mother of your youngest child and thinking she's going to take it. That's my biggest thing with him. It's like, stop acting like she's going to go along with that. And then when you get the shock of your life and she stands up to you, not even stand up, everything, she never sat down for him. She's been very vocal about her life, and he just doesn't like it. That's what I think. That's all it is. He just doesn't like it. It's like, you finna find out, bruh. You know, he said this before about this paradigm shift, return of the mother. Women are not going to be afraid to say no, or I'm removing myself from the situation, or I'm going to shut you up, or I'm going to use the same tools that you have access to.
It's a human process, so I think they'll all, as this goes along, they'll all grow and get to a point of understanding what it is. I really want that for all of them, because we need each of them. Each of them are contributing to the culture in their own different forms, so we need them to be productive and not continually working to tear each other down. So we had the Super Bowl last week, and since the Super Bowl is over, there's been a lot of criticism targeted towards my fellow Auburn alum, Cam Newton, quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. Cam, of course, was on the losing side of the Super Bowl, and it was a tough one for him. And we could see it. A lot of us were rooting for the Panthers, and it hurt us just probably as much as it hurt him. But the media didn't slack up on him. The media had some expectations for him in his losing effort. One of the things that they wanted him to do was stand in the face of the post-game interview, which he did. He went in there, sat down, and I think they got a total of about 3 minutes of him sitting there. Mm-hmm. And they were just hitting him with the typical stupid sports journalist questions, just asking him the same question about what he thought happened in the game, what they could have done better, those particular types of questions. And he answered like a person that had just lost one of the biggest games of their life. Like, short answers, yes, no, we just got outplayed. Mm-hmm. Pretty much straight to the point. But then he got to a point where he just decided to just end the interview. He abruptly ended the interview and walked off. Mm-hmm. And ever since he walked off, people have found more fault in him as a person, as a representative of the sport. And it hurt me a lot because, it's hard for you and I think, and probably a lot of our listeners, to just look at this stuff at just surface level. Like, it's hard for us to just see it at the surface. Because a lot of these things, we see kind of the deeper backstory to what's going on. And Cam has been dabbing on him all season. Mm-hmm. He's had one of the best seasons a quarterback has had in the history of the game. 50 touchdowns as an individual, some of them he himself scoring, others passes to his teammates. And he had numbers. He won the MVP. We talked about him being a 6'6", 250-something pound quarterback. Nothing like the league has really ever seen before. And so with him having these type of successes, people have automatically picked sides on him. You got those that love him, and you got those that hate everything that he stands for.
And he was joyful doing it.
And he was joyful, having a good time. Which is very unorthodox for quarterback, because when you think about the typical quarterback, they're this person that's kind of straight-faced all the time, don't really show any emotion. They're the suit and tie guy. They button up, and they're the way that the image is portrayed. And here you have this kid that's coming in, and he's having fun. He's giving balls to the kids. He's dancing in the end zone, smiling. And he has really been true to himself in the way that he plays his game and his expectations for the team. So this has been going on all year. And so the people in opposition to him have been waiting for a moment for him to fail. And so the loss was a failure. But for him to respond the way that he did in the interview gave them more fuel to basically work at tearing him down.
I know that eventually there was a so-called, air quotes, explanation for why he got up and walked out. And then I guess, the opposing team had a podium set up, and basically they were talking noise right there where he could hear it. Mm-hmm. And it was just too much, and he had to step out. He got up and he walked away, which, isn't that what we tell our kids to do? Get up and walk away. Like, if you feel like you're about to, if it's too much, remove yourself. Mm-hmm. But honestly, even if that wasn't the case, he could get up and walk out if he wanted to. He was one of two quarterbacks who played, or however many, but you know what I'm saying. One of two quarterbacks that had just played in the Super Bowl. he could get up and walk away if he didn't want to engage. And he's just like beast mode. He just showed up because he probably was going to get fined if he didn't show up. If he didn't follow through on it, he's not going to show up, because the truth is, when the game was over, he went over to Peyton Manning and he was very respectful. Peyton Manning, even, which I hate even having to validate this from, somebody else, but he was like, he was very humble. He was, it's okay. I personally, I'm glad he walked out. If you don't feel like doing it, don't do it.
And that is the thing. It's like, you talked about Peyton Manning. So at the end of the game, Cam goes over and does what you do in sportsmanship. You go over and you shake the opposing team's hand, and he was smiling, congratulated Peyton Manning on his win, and went off. Now, years ago, when Peyton Manning lost the game, Peyton Manning didn't even go and shake the opposing quarterback. Yep. He went to the locker room.
Yep.
Nothing was said about that. Bill Belichick, the coach of the New England Patriots, who have won a number of Super Bowls but have also lost some, he's notorious for being a jackass when it comes to losing. So here you are, this guy goes and shakes the opposing quarterback's hand. He shows up and he answers the question. Now, you cannot dictate how a person answers the question. Now, if I come in and I feel a certain kind of way and I'm just no, yes, no, yes, okay, I'm here. I'm still participating. And then he goes in and he talks about how they got outplayed. All right, so, you got the reporters that are constantly fishing. They constantly asking these questions. And really, they keep poking at you to make you do something out of character. Mm-hmm. And then, like you say, you got this other player over there that you can hear they talking about how they game plan to make us do certain things, and they couldn't do it. Like, okay, well, I've been here 2 minutes. I done pretty much said what I'm gonna say. I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. That's just as real as it gets, and it's crazy to me that you can't be human. And I heard another journalist, because all the journalists on TV have chimed in on what they think should have happened and all that, and they talked about he got to be as good of a loser as he is in being a winner.
Shit.
And one guy used the word. One guy used the word is, you've been given. He's been given all this goodness. In his success, he's been given this opportunity to deal with the media. He's been given this acclaim for being an MVP and all. He's been given these things. And when he said that, it made me think about something. It's like, okay, so there's an element in this thing that feels like he's been given this opportunity and he's been given this place to be able to be a quarterback in this league and to do this. Since he's been given this opportunity, he has to do certain things, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's not a matter of him belonging, and it's not a matter of his merit putting him in a place and him belonging there.
Well,
it's like
his daddy. It ain't his daddy training him in.
He's been given this spot. So now, because he's been given this spot, and because he really doesn't belong in the spot or the position of quarterback, you can't be human. You can't have no human moments. Because we graced you this opportunity to do this, we don't want you to be human. We want you to be exactly what it is that we tell you to be. And now you got this man that's saying, I'm not finna do that. And he came back with the post, I will win my way. So I'm going to do this the way that I want to do it. Mm-hmm. And once you start doing that, it's going to make everybody uncomfortable. And it's going to make a lot of those devils make it their mission to tear you down. And that is what's happening. It's basically like a hanging at the stake.
Or they trying to. They can't do it to him, but they trying to.
They're trying to hang the man. So it's like we're gonna stand around and we just gonna watch you, and we're gonna create all this misery and this terror around you, and we're gonna make you conform to what it is. But I applaud the young brother, man, for staying true to himself, because I would have, personally, I would have been the same way.
Because what didn't he say that, if you're good at losing, then you really are a loser?
If you show me a good loser, I'll show you a loser. Mm-hmm. So I'm not finna be good in my losing. So you can forget about that. And now I'll be respectful. I won't go burn no building down or shoot nobody. But I'm not finna just be here like, well, we played a good game and we lost. No, I'm not finna do that. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm not gonna get comfortable in it.
I mean, but the thing that really got under my skin was Deion Sanders' over the top ass and Micheal Irvin's perpetually locked up ass jumping in and saying, well, you supposed to act this way, you supposed to act that way, blah, 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 blah. No,
hurt me.
No. What I think with these two in particular, for me, it's like all that stuff y'all was doing in South Florida that everyone hears about, and all that stuff you were doing while you were on the field, shit like must be the money. That was the dumbest thing to me. Like, I will never be able to see anything other than that with Deion Sanders when it really comes down to it. And,
right.
Micheal Irvin, and don't get me wrong, I'm not judging anybody because they've been locked up or they've had drug problems or anything. It's not about that. It's about the fact that you act as if you weren't wilding out. You weren't out there. And this young man is not wilding out. He's just not sitting there for an interview. Point blank. He just refused to sit there for an interview. So, like, these two, like, those two, they're a couple of clowns to me. Because it's like, you're the perfect example of playing into a system that has supported you and only a few people like you and not an entire society. And then this young man steps in and steps up and he functions from the way that he wants to and is actually more supportive to a community, is more supportive to an overall raising of consciousness, if you will. Like it's so much more close to a socialist mindset, and these other two are coming from this capitalist mindset. And let me tell you, I do not care for Deion Sanders. Like Micheal Irvin, I don't really keep up with him like that. But to me, Deion Sanders is the perfect example of the over-the-top misogynist who will sell your ass out the minute you disagree with him. Throw you under the bus the minute you disagree with him. And I mean, and this is on display. Like, he has these reality shows. He's had a number of reality shows. And it's just kind of the way that he behaves, and everybody does what he says, and it just seems to be a personality thing. It's like, wait. The way you think ain't gonna survive with the way that the society is shifting now anyway. You aren't built for where society is going. So you're gonna have a problem with any and everything that doesn't fall in line with what you think it should be.
It was so hurtful, man. It was hurtful because on one end you got to know that Cam looks up to those guys. He looks up to Deion and looks up to Micheal Irvin because they played the game well before. Those are all of our, models for the game of football. You playing in the backyard, you want to be Micheal Irvin, you Neon Deion. So now to get to this point to where they moved on and they're commentating and they have basically become a part of the establishment, to hear them, not preface the fact that they were at that point. I mean, when I was 26, I did this and I did this. I understand where the kid's coming from. You got to be a little bit more professional. You might have to stand there a little bit longer, but I've been there before. No, they didn't preface it like that. They prefaced it like every other white journalist that had not played the game, that was looking at this kid as some type of demon. And they took advantage of that opportunity to basically throw more fuel on the fire and not have support of this young kid that comes from the same community that they came from. I mean, it hurt me. And then, of course, a few days later, Charles Barkley, another athlete, another Auburn alumni, comes in and said the same thing that they were saying on his basketball show. But it was two people that were in those same settings that spoke from the way that I would have hoped that they all could have collectively spoke from. So you had Marshall Faulk, who was on the show with Deion Sanders and Micheal Irvin. And Marshall Faulk was basically like, I've been there. Like, he has lost a Super Bowl before. He had been there. And he was like, that's the last thing that you really want to do, is to go up there and talk to people asking you questions about losing the biggest game of your life. And he's a kid, and he'll grow from this. He'll understand. But in that moment, we can't expect this kid to be full of passion and excitement during the game and be true to himself in the game, and then expect him not to have that same type of emotion when he loses the game. So it's like, we got to give him space to be human, man. And Shaq said the same thing. Shaq said, like, I'm not finna sit up here and talk about him in the same way that all these other journalists would do. Yes, you do have to probably be a little bit more mindful of what you're doing. You might have to stand in there, do the interview, be a little bit, quote unquote, professional. But I'm not finna do that right here. And what he said was that his parents pulled him to the side and talked to him. So it wasn't in the mainstream. It wasn't in the media. It's like some individual took him to the side in privacy and really broke it down. And that's what I would have hoped. And when I see situations like that, that's what all I can ask for is like man to man, especially for somebody that is kind of following in your path. Because when you talk about showboating, when you talk about winning in style, you've got to talk about Micheal Irvin and Deion. So they would be the great people to pull him to the side somewhere private and be like, look, man, I understand what you're going through. This is what you need to do to excel in this league. But no, they don't do it they don't do it from a stance of partnership and us family working together.
They kicked him while he was down.
Exactly.
They kicked him while he was down, and I think, okay, Deion Sanders, Micheal Irvin, maybe it was a little bit more in the moment or a little bit more like closely to the day that it actually happened. But I'm always blown away by people like Charles Barkley. People keep telling you your opinion matters in one way, and you take that and then run with it, and you think it matters in all ways. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way.
If you take away that characteristic that if we put Charles Barkley on the set, he might say something negative about the black community. He might actually feed into, how we want to portray the black community. If you take away his ability to do that, if you had to put him up there to just talk about it from a real stance of supporting the community, would he really be up there? He has to be that antagonist to even have a spot on there. And I would probably say the same thing about a Deion or Micheal Irvin.
No,
they don't really have the same pull.
I disagree with they have to be. They don't have to do anything.
Well,
they don't. I know what you're saying, but I think that's where people like you. We get linguistics and we pick words and stuff like that. And this isn't for what you're saying. I'm just saying in general, how those words will go to people's attitudes and their thinking. It's like, well, he had to. No, he didn't have to. He didn't have to do anything. They don't have to speak that way. They don't have to make their living from that. They choose to make a living from that.
Exactly.
And then more than that, they're in a position where they probably, I'm just assuming, I don't know anybody's money situation, but by the way it appears, only from what it appears, it's like you have even more of a choice than someone that is just an everyday person working 9 to 5 who might get on a podcast and just say whatever they want to say.
They're right. Them boys working with them major networks, so they got to keep them shit coming. So they got to say what they've been told to say.
But they're athletes. They are originally known for being athletes, and that's what they are famous for. But I'm never, ever going to go along with that attitude of like anybody has to do any one thing. It might be I have to do it if I want to get this specific result. That's one thing, but just generally speaking, nah, they don't have to. Like no one had to say anything nasty about Cam. You know what I mean? Like no one had to have an opinion about that. No one had to feed into the opinion.
I just wish that the people that have blazed the trail, that when it comes to having a conversation with the younger generation, that they would do it in a way that is teachable. Take advantage of the moment and teach, and not use the moment to tear down. Like that's so hypocritical and so detrimental to me. But I'm proud of Cam for staying true to himself and vowing that he will not be a puppet. New rules are definitely in effect for parents that are paying attention. This is a new example of really where we got to get to. We're gonna do it right. If we in your organization or whatnot, we're gonna give you 110%. But at the same time, we're not going to sacrifice our humanity and our ethics just to suit somebody else's comfort. No, we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. In my radical mindset, I appreciated it. And I look forward to him maintaining that stance like some of the other greats that stood in their own truth no matter how controversial it was. Let's talk about it. Super Bowl 50, the halftime show. It was lit, like you say.
I liked it. I even like, everybody was focused on 2 artists in particular, but I liked everyone. For those of you who don't know who performed. So Coldplay was supposed to be the main act, and they had a past, present, and future theme. And so they had Beyonce and Bruno Mars, and, they threw it back to like some old performances, like the Michael Jackson performance, Whitney, just some of those really, really, really pivotal performances over years past the Super Bowl. And it got real. It got real because you got to back it up a little bit.
Okay.
To set the stage for this. So, I am not a member of the Beehive, but I do like some of Beyonce's work. And, Beyonce is known for dropping things without warning. And so on the Saturday before Super Bowl, she released a video called Formation. And it got people all worked up. One, because she dropped it without saying anything, like she did her album in 2013. Mm-hmm. But the video has a lot of strong pro-black, anti-police brutality messages and visuals. So, setting the stage, and I love this BG. I love talking about this. It, the song itself and the video in combination touched on a few issues. So, like at the very beginning of the song, you hear, I don't know if y'all, New Orleans people know about Messy Maya and Messy Mia or whatever, and Big Frida. Like, I like Big Frida. And so Big Frida is at the beginning of that song, which everybody knows that she is the queen diva. You best to believe her. Like,
you already know.
Out and proud, member of the gay community. But she, in combination with being a super, really like well-respected, well-known bounce artist from New Orleans.
Shout out to the NOLA. I miss you this year.
And, in the song, Beyonce sings about preferring that her baby has baby hair and afros. Her husband has Jackson 5 nostrils. She makes a lot of references, which I won't go into all of them, but it's very much a decidedly pro-black woman song. But the video takes it to the next level. Like, I don't know how many times you saw the video.
I watched the video for the first time in preparation for this show.
Like,
video go hard. That video is hard, man.
And I kind of want to not go through and break down every single element, but there are some, like very, very like in your face specific things about this video. So, one of the main shots that they have throughout the whole thing is her standing on a cop car, New Orleans cop car, in the middle of water or in the middle of a flood. So, it's reference to Katrina. It's and the car sinks over the course of the video. It sinks a little bit more, so that's a subliminal message. Because I love New Orleans. I think it's changed quite a bit. But you remember when we were kids, New Orleans cops were known to be corrupt.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, like I don't know about today, but just I remember hearing those stories about like it could get crazy. With some of the New Orleans cops. But biggest thing is like the city, was hit with Katrina and the levees breaking. So she shouts that out. She shouts out, I think in a very, no one has said this, but there's a scene in there where there's a little boy dancing in a black hoodie in front of a row of riot cops. And like he's dancing, and when he finishes his dance, he stops, he puts his hands up, and they raise their hands. And then it cuts to a scene where it's graffiti, stop shooting us. And the other thing about this little boy looks like he's dressed like Trayvon Martin. Because it also came out within days of when Trayvon Martin was supposed to have been 21 years old. So it was a lot of that kind of imagery. And then there are a lot of dark-skinned women with afros in the video. I'm trying to say what else, the Moors. She's standing in front of
the Moors, the
Moorish brothers. She throws up the middle fingers. She does a lot of things that are like it's a direct shot. Like it's no guessing what she means. She sort of pays homage to a few things in the way that she's dressed, like in New Orleans and the free people of color. She plays a nod to that, but I think she also nods to, I call it that Daughters of the Dust swag, which I don't know if you've ever heard of that movie, but Daughters of the Dust is one of those classic movies. It's directed by Julie Dash, who is a sister, and it sort of talks about gullah culture. And so if you see the film, you see how they're dressed. So she's dressed in, Beyonce is dressed in that fashion. And the thing is like, it's clear Beyonce ain't sleep. She's not blind to history, and she's not blind to understanding like Creole. Like she's Creole, half black. Like, cause in the song, she talks about her father being from Alabama, which he is, and her mom being Creole, and kind of, taking that and turning it on his ear. So anyway, I'm saying all of that. So this video comes out on that Saturday before the Super Bowl. People are worked up about it for a few reasons. And so then she gets on to the Super Bowl and she performs that song. And she leads out 50 black women in black berets and black leather. And she's wearing the magazine of bullets. And like in the way that all of them were dressed, it was in homage to the Black Panther Party, which happened to have been founded in Oakland, like 50 miles away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, from Santa Clara. So, it was a shout out to the Black Panthers. And then she, she's also paid tribute to Michael Jackson, too, in the way that she was dressed. And she performs this song on the field. And I mean, she performs a section of the song and then, they go on and do the rest of the show. But it's kicked up a lot of anger. Oh, this is the other thing. There are pictures that came out from backstage where her dancers had a sign saying, this is for Mario Woods. And for those of you who don't know, Mario Woods was killed in San Francisco not too long before the Super Bowl. He was shot 20 times, 19 times in the back. There's a video of him being shot.
Basically in front of a wall, surrounded by numerous cops, and they said he had a knife. He wasn't running, he was just pacing and walking, and the next thing you know, you see him going down on a barrage of bullets.
On one hand, I want to say watch that video because, sometimes people just need to see the truth. But it's a terrifying video to watch. It really is, because you hear people in the background. There's a sister who actually, I guess she was recording. She's saying, drop the knife, don't shoot him, don't shoot him, don't shoot. Like, you hear this stuff happening. So
it's ridiculous.
And so Beyonce used her platform, and her dancers used the platform, performed the song, called us out. And so within hours, I saw this like in my timeline, like within a couple of hours of the Super Bowl being over, people are saying that Beyonce is anti-police. There's this stupid Canadian counselor or something who was saying that they should look into the connection between Beyonce and the Black Panther Party, which is like, do you realize how stupid you sound? And you in Canada. What did you care for?
Ignorant, man. Ignorance.
The bigger one is the anti-police thing. Everybody, these Fox News pundits and these stupid commentators are talking about this is anti-police, which is absolutely not. In my opinion, I made that very clear early on. It's like the only reason that you would feel like this is anti-police is because you support shooting innocent people. Mm-hmm. This message wouldn't be so harsh if there wasn't guilt and proof. Mm-hmm. So shut the fuck up, because that's what it comes down to. Talking about banning this woman from different countries. It's ridiculous. But then you got the flip side of that. You got the super duper conscious people who are like, it's not enough. She should have done this earlier. Or she should have done it this way. Or she should have done it that way. It's like, no. You shut the fuck up too, because you're angry because you didn't have the platform. If you had the platform, what would you have done with it? Would you have gotten to a place where you felt comfortable messing with your money? Because people, for all intents and purposes, she messing with her money. She decided to sacrifice things like she can't go into Canada, or if she can't go into the UK and she is a touring artist, she's not going to be able to go into these countries where she can make a lot of money, right? Right.
Yep. High potential of losing that.
There's a high potential of losing. And so, to me, it brought up this whole conversation we really need to have about this low vibration of expectation when it comes to our celebrities. Like the whole Jada, Aunt Viv, Will Smith thing. You got Beyonce. Is it not okay for these people to get their lives in order, and then when they have an opportunity to use their platform, use it? Like, it's a long game. None of this is a short-term thing. And people actually become upset. It's like, oh, it's about commercialism. Oh, it's about blah, blah, blah. Okay, so how is it that they get the money to support certain movements if they don't participate in this capitalist society that is the dominant force, right?
Right. And
because they don't stop what they're doing when we want them to, their help is less valued. So that was probably my biggest issue, because the thing is, you're always going to have these people talking about anti-white, anti-cop, anti-this, anti-that, because that's the sign of the times. We're in these days of Black Lives Matter. So there's always going to be someone looking to discredit Black Lives Matter by what someone else is doing. But really, what really got me is when our own folks get into that nonsense about how it should be done. It's like, all right, well, if you knew how to play the game, homie, you would have been able to reach that level and have access to those resources.
It's that whole Cam situation all over again. You know, this lady is using her platform to shed light on certain things, using her creativity to elevate people's conscience and open them up to the conversation. Whether you feel like some of her songs are just repetitive dance party songs or whatever, when you listen to it like you've done, you break down those lyrics and you look at the visual that goes along, it's a lot of creative delivery of real messaging that it would take you to really sit down and be open-minded enough to understand what's going on. But, you know, it's all that. Once you do that, you start making people uncomfortable. You start having a narrative that's different from the respectable narrative. You are the Antichrist then. And so she has to be applauded. And personally, like I said, the show was great. The video was even greater because of all that stuff, and for her to be in that position and be willing to step out there like that. Also, you know, she's given opportunity. One of the dancers at the Super Bowl is somebody that I know from Alabama. Shout out to Christina. She was out there representing. Mm-hmm. So it was a real good look to have those beautiful women out there like that. You know, that got me off the rip. Like I was with that, and then to be in formation. But bigger kudos to the Super Bowl, though. Really, that halftime show was about movement, and more specifically, movement from that area. Because you talked about the Black Panther Party that was founded in the Bay Area, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale in Oakland, 1966. But then you've got 1955, you had the first lesbian civil rights group, Daughters of Bilitis, that were founded in San Francisco. And if you looked at Coldplay's part, you saw the rainbows everywhere. And the man said, no matter where we are, we're in this together. So it wasn't just about, you know, the Black Lives Matter and the Black Panthers, but it was also about another movement that originated in that area. And so, and I'm sure that whoever put the program together, I would like to think that they knew what Beyonce was going to do. They understood what Formation was about. And it was intentional to bring those things together. Both of those tributes made people uncomfortable, whether it be the anti-gay and lesbian groups or the anti-black groups. Of course, they were uncomfortable. But it was a very powerful collaboration, in my opinion. The music was good. It was well done. It was tasteful, and it really was educational, if nothing else. But because we're in such a closed-minded society where people feel like it's either their way or the highway, you're going to have a lot of this nonsense criticism.
Interesting because that you say, you know, it's a closed-minded society. I think that is not anymore. I think that's the problem. You know what I mean? I think that it's for those old heads who are still left. Like, it's becoming too open-minded. It's becoming too pro-choice, whatever it is. You just live your life. You do what you do. And I am always going to say, every episode I get a chance, I'm going to say, we are in a state of cleansing. We are in a major state of cleansing. So it's just like when something is healing. You know, it looks nasty. You got to get all the germs and all that stuff has to bubble up, and then you clean it off, and then the scab starts to form when it starts to heal. And we are still in that open wound, bubbling up. Everything that don't need to be here is being removed.
And I do believe that when you hear those criticisms, it's just the negatives coming from people that are still holding on to these old traditions and old values that have an opportunity to speak loudly by way of Twitter and other forms of social media. And then it comes off as if everybody feels this way. But it's only a small minority of people that feel like Beyonce is against the police. Right?
It's like white supremacy. Look at the way that white supremacy functions. It's all mirrors. Everything is a mirror of something else. So if you don't understand how racism and white supremacy works, but you get a better grasp of how sexism works, same thing. You know what I mean? It moves in the same way. And, you know, like gay marriage was made legal this year. So, you know, a lot of that movement was about that right. A lot of it. Now you get down to more of that day-to-day, you know, stuff, trends and, you know, different groups within the gay community. It's just that, you know, like I said, it's just, we just hit this point where the shit really hurts right now. It really hurts. It's killing people literally and figuratively. You have these old heads moving on, whether it's through death or just, they're just moving on in their lives or whatever, which is interesting because we're going to be talking about that a bit more. The space is being created. Space is being created for something even better, for something even happier or healthy, or however you look at it, or just more conducive, I think, to an inclusive life. And that's hard on people. That's hard on your super conscious folks. That's hard on your super racist folks. It's hard on your super traditional folks. It's hard on anybody who lives on one end of the spectrum or the other. If you are not in that gray area, if you are not anywhere along that spectrum, it might not be as hard in one way, and it could be hard in other ways. But if you on those polar opposites, your ass is having a hard time these days. Your mind is getting blown every day because you seeing something that's going, you seeing something on your timeline every single day that's going to make you feel like the world coming to an end.
Yeah, new rules are definitely in effect. This week, although some of my favorites were under a lot of criticism and had to kind of stand in and take a lot of this stuff that the press has been throwing, it really made me feel good to see people at that level use their platform to stand for something.
And everything that's been done in the dark is starting to come to light.
We see that in places like Michigan, with the whole Flint situation where they've been sitting on that and submit those people to those unlivable conditions. And then you got the governor that's still talking about, they should do an investigation and somebody should go to jail for da-da-da. No, you the one that should go to jail. You got to see that interview if you haven't, about how he stands in and basically passes the buck as if he had no involvement in it. It's sickening It's
a modern day Tuskegee experiment.
Exactly. He didn't have no dealings with it, and somebody should be arrested, but I don't think I should be arrested. You're a lie. But we got to take a moment though, as we move forward, piggybacking on the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Marshawn McCarroll II, the 23-year-old in Ohio, he basically took his own life on the steps of the Ohio State House on February the 8th. And he was a known participant in the Black Lives Matter movement in that area. And before that, I guess hours before he committed the act, he sent a tweet, and basically the tweet said, "My demons won today. I'm sorry." So we lifting his family up and friends and his spirit up. The young man was out there on the front line fighting for rights and for justice. But he made that statement, and I'm wondering, kind of where that came from. And we've been talking about this, is the pressure that people are feeling when we're out here and we're coming to know that all of these things that are going on in our community that are set up to kill us. And then you fighting and you're trying to make people aware, and then you're getting demonized for trying to stand for right and for humanity. And we have to ask the question of what type of effect, what type of bearing is this having on those young people that have committed their lives to the cause?
Well, I think it's up to us, point blank, and, I think that this could possibly be a whole show topic, which I hope it will be, maybe one day, is who takes care of the activists? Point blank. Who takes care of them? I was struck with that question after reading, we all know Netta from Black Lives Matter movement. And, there was a series of Black Girl Magic covers with Essence, and she was on one of them. And within the interview, she made mention, it was just in passing, but she made mention that, she doesn't know how her bills are going to get paid. She doesn't know if she's going to have rent. She doesn't know if she's going to have this. She doesn't know if she's going to have that. But you see she's on the cover of Essence, and she's traveling around, and, people get it messed up. They think that because people are doing things like that, they don't have real responsibilities. And she's so committed to the movement because she's a genius with social media. You know what I mean? Like she's good at what she does. She and like D-Ray McKesson are known to be like best friends. Mm-hmm. So, they kind of piggyback off of each other.
Off of each other. Right.
But reading that, it's just like, what? Why do we make people feel ashamed for needing help when they're famous? Because that's what it is. She's well known. She's not rich. These people are using their young years to fight a very, very dangerous battle, a very dangerous cause. And they get vilified if their organization receives money and they have a line item that says salary Or if they have a line item that says, we're going to buy a house where everybody can live and everybody got somewhere to go back to when they get off the road. You know, do we have mental help, or do we have mental support, emotional support therapists set up for these people? It's like, it's kind of the way they take care of the preacher. You know, but I don't know if they still do it. It's the way they take care of the preacher, make sure the preacher's family has somewhere to live.
Yeah, they're really taking care of the preacher these days, you know?
Oh, yeah, the private jets and stuff. So
no doubt.
It should be the same for the people that are out there, like Bree Newsom. She climbs up and she takes down a Confederate flag because everybody else too scared to do it. So she do it. And fortunately, people came together very quickly to get her bail and get her out of jail. But how is she living now? Is she living? Is she okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, does she have an apartment? You know, if she had children, are her children okay? Mm-hmm. That, to me, that's real. That's a real community engagement in the activism. Like, if you got, this is a play on the Beyonce song. We talked about this, and you know, you got to watch that movie. But the albino alligator, like, she makes reference to this, and it's a movie, y'all. But what it comes down to within this movie, there's a reference to how alligators work when they are fighting another group of alligators, or if they're hunting prey or whatever. But there's one alligator that makes a decision to be the sacrificial lamb. Like, they'll go in to be the distraction, knowing that they're going to die. They're not going to see the end of that battle, but they do it so the rest of the pack or whatever can win the war, win the battle, get the job done, whatever. But it's that sacrificial lamb thing, and we're going to get more into that. But, you know, we've talked about, you know, in order to be a vital part of the movement, I think your intentions are connected to whether or not you think that you're going to be around to see the results. You cannot be attached to being around to see the results.
Yeah, that's very powerful.
The end of the Beyonce video, the car sinks. She's on it.
And she sinks with the car.
She sinks with the car. She sinks with the movement. She sinks with the change. She sinks with the whatever. And like I said, she was thoughtful enough in her lyrics to make mention of that particular movie. You know,
like you said, we have to embrace everybody's contribution to the conversation, and then make sure that in these cases of like our local activism and things like that, a lot of these people and these elements are worth supporting, and so we have to do that. So our prayers go out to the Micheal family. Prayers go out to Black Lives Matter, Beyonce, Future, Ciara, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton. Keep your head up, and everybody else that we talked about on the Retroscope podcast is all out of love. Like Michael Jackson say, with love. On that note, what you got for us?
This week we got a bunch of new people.
Very much so new, as y'all have grown accustomed to. A lot of these people, if you like me, you ain't never heard of, but they got good work. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the first one is a group, Majid Jordan, on the song Her. You guys might have heard of Majid Jordan, Drake's What's Going Home? Just hold on, we're going home.
That's it.
That's him. That's
it. Oh, that's him with that? Okay.
That's Majid Jordan. So, like, that gives you an idea, like Toronto group or whatever.
Okay.
Next group is King, the right one, which, you know, we talked about King a couple of weeks ago, so y'all just check these sisters out. And Anderson .Paak, Heart Don't Stand a Chance. And for those of you who follows Dr. Dre, he was prominently featured on Dre's, what's the album, the Straight Outta Compton album? Huh?
The soundtrack?
Yeah, but it's called something else. It's not Detox. Detox is one we've been waiting on forever, but it's Compton. Is it just called Compton? But, you know, Dr. Dre released an album. Okay, I guess you don't listen to Dr. Dre, BJ.
Well, I mean, I just thought it was a Straight Outta Compton soundtrack.
Well, no, I think maybe it was just
they
called
named it
Compton.
Compton?
But, in essence, it was a soundtrack. But anyway, Anderson .Paak was featured pretty prominently on that album. And he's pretty dope, y'all. So the song is Heart Don't Stand a Chance. I think y'all like him.
And just for the sake of completing this, yes, the album was called Compton.
Okay, so we're gonna go to break now, so BG and I can have a discussion off air about who's in charge of this music session. You know, you got to keep up. You got to stay with me, BG. But all right, y'all, that's the music though.
Be back in a minute.
Yeah. smoke, but you swear I got that dope, and I'm thinking you like to be. Every word I speak got you flowing off your seat, and I'm knowing that you like me. Oh, you high, baby. Oh, the blunt is rolled up, nobody lit it. Said even if we don't puff, won't make a difference. My body's leaning to the right, baby. You tell me gonna spend the night, baby. Love, I don't even know ya. I know enough to get you high, baby. I got about a half an ounce of that tree, got about a half a cup of that lean. I say, go on and kick your feet up, I'ma go ahead and twist the weed up. She said, cool to say what I think. I said, go on and do what you feel. She said, bend me over that sink. I say, damn, you wish it's my will. I get the feeling that you might be. Did I turn you on? You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm feeling that you might be. And we ain't even smoke, but you swear I got that dope, and I'm thinking you like to be. Every word I speak got you flowing off your seat, and I'm knowing that you like me.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
And we're back. Retroscope Podcast. That's your music picks for the week. Go check those artists out. We got Majid Jordan, King, and Anderson .Paak. So, tune in. Check them out. I'm sure that'll be something that you can add to your playlist. Get some of that ratchet music out of your playlist. Add some spiritual music to your thing, and make you feel a whole lot better, so you don't be walking around angry and turned up all the time. Stop being so damn lit. We grown. De-lit. Unlit. All right, anyway, so we kind of got into it when we were talking about the old guard getting out of the way and making room for new blood to lead some of these movements. And, we talked about that whole Deion Sanders, Micheal Irvin, that seemed to have like kind of a gatekeeper's theme to it. We talked about how some of the older people that at one point in time were involved in movements like the civil rights movement can't really seem to jive with what's going on in the younger generation's movement, i.e. the Black Lives Matter movement. So it's very frustrating to see us not progress but kind of stay stagnant and still, because we can't get any collaboration between the young folks and the elders. And you personally kind of had some experiences with that. We talked about, I think maybe like on the first episode, where it was hard for you to get some things going because the old guard wouldn't support and wouldn't really facilitate your process as a young entrepreneur and as a person that's wanting to commit and share with the community. They just seem to get in the way and retard progress. Where does that stem from? Why do you think that that's time and time again an issue, to where people, once they get to a certain place, once they get to maybe even a certain age, they refuse to kind of pass the torch and get out of the way and let somebody else run with it?
I think the people that are guilty of that are, at some point, maybe in their growth as, let's say, a leader or a well-known person, I think they get bit by the capitalism bug. You know what I mean? I think they get caught up in the short term. Maybe when they start off, it's that long term, I want to see change, I want to see something happen. And then maybe they don't think beyond reaching that specific goal. So like, you got the Voting Rights Act. And, that was something that people marched and protested for years and years and years. And then when it finally came to fruition, it was like, so what do you move on to next? And then they don't move on. You know what I mean? They get into the economic side of it. It's kind of like Abernathy. After MLK was gone, he was known to have gotten into, poor people's rights. Mm-hmm. And just kind of making that shift. And it's like that was an automatic thing for a lot of them to go into that shift. But just regardless of what generation you come from, I think the people who do that it's a very, very, very self-centered way of thinking. Like, they aren't willing to go down with the ship, like we made reference to with the Beyonce video. They aren't willing to miss out on being legends. it's almost like a corporate ladder. This is just kind of dawning on me. They treat it like it's a corporate ladder where it's like I'm trying to become the CEO. Then when I become the CEO, I ain't going nowhere. I want to be able to sit up here and tell you what to do for as long as I want to. And then, I might die. I might retire. But if I retire, I still might be on the board. You know what I mean? I still might be doing this and having influence in my hand in it. And the truth is, from my perspective, when you are starting a movement, whether you consider yourself to be an activist or you're an artist or you're whatever, when you're at the helm of any sort of movement, you got to know from the very beginning, I am not going to see this to the end. Like, I might not see it till the end. I can only do what I can from a day-to-day perspective, always keeping that big picture, there. But I got to be willing to live with the fact that I might not see the results of what I'm going for. Unless, of course, it's something that is like a very short-term thing. But typically a movement isn't a short-term thing. We trying to affect generations, you know what I mean, and into the future. So, like I feel like you got the New South movement. We got this, like I feel like Shot Peacock is a movement. We got things that we're working on as a movement. We might get to enjoy some of the immediate effects of maybe becoming more well-known or something, you know what I mean, or becoming more visible. But ultimately, what we're trying to do, we are not going to be able to see it because you can't get the kind of results we're looking for in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, it'd be a miracle if my youngest child, who's 4, well, he's 5 now, if he sees it. Our children might be old men or old women. They are elders when they see it. Mm-hmm. And then their children and their grandchildren, it'll be their way of life. It'll be their society. So it's disappointing. I think it comes down to capitalism. I think it's greed. I think it's not having a real understanding of what movement is. But at the same time, I'm not going to bash because, like, if you are a 21-year-old, 22-year-old in the civil rights movement and you've never organized anything before that, you don't really have a point of reference.
Yeah.
So.
And what we asking for could be very utopic in a sense because, it's been a lot of years that have passed and time again, you see this separation between, let's just make it simple, young and old. So SNCC and SCLC, who at one point couldn't be on the same page. Now they're in the same time period, basically kind of working for the same thing, but SNCC was representative of the youth and the SCLC was more reflective of the establishment, pastors and people like that. Mm-hmm. And they couldn't see eye to eye on basically the same central thing that they were fighting for. So, it may not ever get to that place to where people can do that, mainly because individually, if we become a part of something, we want to see our work come to fruition. Like, we want to be there. We want to be there. Like, if we're going for this victory and we've been practicing, we've been putting in this work, we want to be able to stand on the podium and raise the number one. And when I look at things like, we can talk about it, the SCLC, now you have a lot of different people that were kind of involved and all that kind of stuff. They seem to have this ownership of that movement. They have ownership of the voting rights movement. They have ownership over the civil rights movement, and nothing else can compare. Mm-hmm. Nothing else stands up to that. We did this. This is what we did. This is way it went. But then they refuse to have a dialogue with the people of the modern day movement. And when I say dialogue, I'm not talking about where they're coming in and they're lecturing to these kids. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about finding that place of that mesh point to where what was going on in the 60s is very similar to what you're doing now. So, okay, well, this is what we did. When we faced this is what we did. So you can take that and apply it to what you got going on. And we had this conversation of collaboration, but It's so hard, man. I think on a grand scale, it's hard for human beings as a whole to collaborate because in our selfish nature, we want to be the one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and the thing is, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that that's what it is. It's just when it gets to the point where you are oblivious, you have chosen to remain in oblivion about it to the point where you are willing to sink the ship without having gotten anything done. You know, so like what I ran across in my experience in having a black bookstore in the Civil Rights District was I was fortunate in the sense that I did have these elders that would come in that were a wealth of knowledge. You know what I mean? Like every single day I was learning something about the movement or something about their personal history or like their personal stories and all of that. Like one day, you know, we're all familiar with the Temptations and the connection to Birmingham and the member Paul Williams. Paul Williams' brother came in one day. And like he just lived in Birmingham, it's a regular guy, you know, he walks through there all the time. And he came in and he would drop so much knowledge about growing up in the 60s in Birmingham, having this brother that was famous and kind of how it translated with him being in Detroit. And, you know, the relation to Eddie Kendricks and like and it wasn't about the music of the Temptations. It was about that he was just a guy that was there at the height of a lot of things. And a lot of historical events. And it was cool talking to him. But, you know, the Civil Rights District, the crown jewel of the Civil Rights District is Kelly Ingram Park and the Civil Rights Institute. And so, you know, we made a few efforts to link up with the Civil Rights Institute. And we had we had some great people there. Like, I'm going to shout them out, like Ahmad Ward, you know, Dr. Huntley, Laura Anderson. There are a few, and they're still there. Dr. Huntley's not there, I don't think anymore. But, you know, there were some who were actively trying to help us, you know, partner up and do some things. But what we would come across is, no, we don't want to partner with you guys to do story time. Like, y'all, I'm still salty about that because all we wanted to do was a basic story time, storytelling session for kids. And we did it out of our shop. But we knew that the Civil Rights Institute had one, but it was more of that traditional, like what we were used to as kids, where you literally have somebody who they tell a story and then they leave. And what we were doing, we were trying to like make it multidimensional. Like, you know, we had this book club thing going where, you know, one of my friends who's a DJ would do like a mixtape for the particular meeting, and we had these sessions, and the storyteller, who was his wife, very artistic, expressive, creative. Like, it was just this experience. And it was like, we're willing to put up the resources to do it. We're willing to put up the manpower to do it. We got the volunteers to do it. Blah, 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 blah. They didn't want to do it. It was like we were butting heads with them all of the time. And that's when it became painfully clear to me about the gatekeeper mentality. And how, you know, people were willing to let Birmingham die in a way. You know, or let a certain part of it, a segment of it, not survive because they didn't want to relinquish that control. They didn't want to share the byline. They didn't want to share the credit. They didn't want to share any of that. And it's disheartening. You know, imagine being 25 years old, 26 years old, got all these like hopes for the world and hopes for what you can bring to where you're from. And then you run into that and nobody tells you about it. You know what I mean? No one tells you about it. No one talks about it because, you know, none of us want to be perceived as disrespectful when it comes to the elders. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell all y'all something. My mom, my grandmother, and apparently my grandfather used to say this, but old fools do exist. There's a difference between an old person and an elder. It's an absolute difference. And it's okay for you to be honest and be able to recognize who those people are. It doesn't mean that you go off and be rude and you're disrespectful, but you can recognize who those people are. And so like when we had Malcolm's reading room and I had that experience, that was the point when I decided it was like, I don't have to go along with you because you're older than me. We don't have to do what you say because you're older. I listen to you and I accept your wisdom because you're an elder and I can see the difference. And we're running into a lot of that. I think a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement heads and participants, they run into that. You know, like you got D-Ray who wears his blue vest. He's not wearing a suit. You know what I mean? He's going to wear his vest. The 3 founders of Black Lives Matter movement are queer women, right? Mm-hmm. You know, none of this respectability bullshit is going to work anymore. And, you know, you see it in Cam Newton. Cam Newton is, 26 years old?
Yep.
And he had the presence of mind to say, nope, not going to do it the way you tell me to do it. I'm going to do it the way that I do it. It can be a disheartening thing, but I like so many things so many times for me, it's just be honest about it and let's be truthful about it. Let's have these conversations about it, because what it's going to come down to is you have these gatekeepers who will not move out of the way, and they're going to get removed. They're going to be removed, whether it's they're banned from certain activities, voted out of positions. Removed can be anything. When it's like, why don't you just gracefully step aside? Like, you know, when you're being told all this, it's hypocritical. It's like when you're being told you need to behave like a professional. Yeah. You're supposed to do things a certain way. Well, why would I do that when you won't gracefully step aside? Why would we do that if you won't gracefully get out of the way or get on board? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And I think that what scares a lot of the older generation with the current generation that's rapidly growing and influencing things is that they're literally saying, no, not doing it the way you want me to do it. No, I'm not going to let you marginalize my life because I might wear fewer clothes, or because I might wear braids, or I might wear my sneakers to a movement or to a meeting, or when I go meet the president, I might not dress up. I might not do these formal things. It's like, clearly it worked. It made you feel like something was working, but clearly it didn't work.
And there will be times, right? You know, and it's just part of growing up, that as a young person, you think you have all the answers, then you need somebody to check you and be like, nah, that ain't what you need to be doing right now. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. And maybe what we're asking for is something that might not even be necessary. Like, you know, we want to have this communal type of dialogue with, you know, the elders, but it may not even be necessary, because one thing that you also have to notice is that in a lot of situations, especially in these established organizations and things like that, you're now dealing with people that either were not involved in like the real heart of movement, or people that were like on the sidelines watching.
Yeah.
So they were watching, and now all of these other kind of frontline figureheads that have passed away leave this open spot, and now you got somebody that just might have been born in that.
It's baby boomers.
Yeah, they might have just been alive at that time, but because they were alive, now they are the new authority on what happened, and we can't really debate it because we weren't there. So now you got a lot of these people that are stepping up and being spokesmen for, you know, that previous movement, but really when that movement was going on, they didn't really have nothing to do with it.
Yep.
So to even try to work with them would actually be faulty on our behalf, because they don't really have anything to give other than standing in as a figurehead of, like, they could be making all that stuff up. Mm-hmm. They could be telling somebody else's story. I'm just asking for the conversation, and I don't like to see these young people, whether they just kind of getting caught up in the trend of the hashtag, or whether they are very much sincere about fighting. I just don't like to see them. I don't like to see their efforts discounted and their total being discounted because they're not working in the structure of the establishment. So, like, one example that has recently come about is like the CBC. So the CBC is the Congressional Black Caucus. And they are like the representatives of Congress that are the black members of Congress that usually stand as a legislative representation of the black community in America. So they're supposed to be kind of setting the agenda for the politics in Washington and making sure that the politics in Washington are favorable to the black community. But you have a lot of those older members in there. You got people like John Lewis and people like that are in there. People that were a part of the movement, but now have become a part of the establishment. and it's becoming very hard to separate them from all of the other elements that have been set up to create these barriers and these obstacles for the Black American community.
I mean, you know, that whole CBC, like the whole endorsement, you know, with Hillary Clinton. I think the whole Bernie Sanders Hillary Clinton thing is a definitive example of the line that's drawn between generations. You know, like CBC, they endorsed Hillary Clinton, right?
They did.
And the first thing I thought is you all have just immediately lost the millennial crowd. Off the top, you lost them. And apparently there was some back and forth within the caucus, you know, because everybody wasn't with it. But it's almost, to me, it almost felt like John Lewis when he was announcing it. And you know, they were kind of talking about the dynamic. It was just like, y'all kids don't know what you're talking about anyway. We're going to still go with Hillary. You know, and figuring out a way to discredit that choice, because I'm not about bashing Hillary Clinton. I'm not interested in doing any of that. But that is a definitive, that is the perfect example of the divide between the generations.
Because the question is ultimately, why is Hillary not connecting to Black millennials, and why is Bernie Sanders seeming to connect? What is it? What is it that these two candidates are offering that you like, that is attracting you to them, and what are the elements that are pushing you away from them? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing right there really, like you said, it highlights this divide. So what does that mean for us going forward?
How can you answer that? It's like, you can't. What's the point?
What's the point? What's the point? What are we talking about?
And then, you know, why is it so absolutely necessary to fulfill what I think, my personal opinion is, they told Hillary Clinton so many years ago, we're going to back you when you run for president, and it's just a matter of them keeping a promise. It's not about looking at the actual facts. And, you know, I've actually seen some pieces where folks are dissing the millennials because part of their thing with Bernie Sanders is they want to go and do research. You know what I mean? Like, it's a, like you say, you did something, we finna go find it. We gonna post it on whatever social media platform. And it was some article, which I have to find it, kind of challenging that and acting like that was something that's not of value, or, you know, it's overanalyzation. But it's like, no. The reason that elder generations are uncomfortable, and these people who are in these positions of power, they are not liking the fact that the receipts are being pulled on them every time they say something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was like the whole Deion Sanders thing. It's like, oh, you gonna talk crazy? Somebody finna pull.
Immediately started pulling videos and posting videos of him in the 80s when he was 20 something.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, no. You're being held accountable, and accountability sucks.
It sucks.
It sucks, and it's so overwhelming because accountability is coming every day. Everybody is being called out. Everyone.
And you can create a social media for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's good and it's bad. We can talk about what the bad things are, but it's the truth. It's like your feet are being held to the fire every single day of your life. Look at Bill Cosby. Perfect example. And I'm not talking about guilt. I'm not going to get into that, but it's like every single day something was being pulled up, right? Every single day.
And that generation is not used to that. And we're kind of on the cusp. This is kind of new for us, but for the years to come, you gonna have a group, an army of now youths that are gonna grow up, and they're gonna be just that analytical to, like, if you say something, it better be factual, because if not, immediately somebody is going to be shooting it down. And that's a great point, that these folks, they used to saying stuff and not having anybody knowing the history, not being able to find the history. Because
there have been plenty of pieces about Hillary Clinton. It's like, Hillary Clinton has not earned the black vote, and they started pulling all types of stuff that was going on during the Clinton administration and during her time as a Secretary of State, and the time in between that. You know what I mean? It's like pulling all types of stuff. It's like, this is compelling.
And you can mobilize that information so quick to where before somebody would almost have to write a tell-all book 10 or 15 years down the road before you actually even knew what was going on. But now it's immediate, and it's going out to millions and millions of people with the touch of a send button. Somebody just got to hit the send button, and it's out there. But in closing this out, though, I think once again this is another piece that speaks to the importance of our group, this 30-something group that stands in the middle to serve as that bridge. It's extremely important for us to continue to ascend to places of influence, because I think we have a better vantage point of both sides. We can understand the importance of the past and the present and the future. So I think it's really ultimately important for us to basically take all this information in and then distribute it where it needs to go without it being preachy, without it being us saying, "Oh, we got the answer. You don't have the answer. You need to get with us to get the answer." I don't think that does us any good, but I do believe we need to have those conversations.
I mean, I think I say it all the time. I think that we are in a very advantageous position. Being 30 to 35, 36. I would say even up to 40.
For sure. Yeah, I'd say that too.
I would say up to 40. I think that we are products of the hip hop generation. Like, we are second, third generation hip hop kids. So, when we were coming of age, Tribe Called Quest, like that was like the first group that I might have known anything about, but I have a better one. Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt came out my freshman year of high school. That's absolutely a coming of age time. So, that should, if you're a real like hip hop timeline person, you kind of know where that falls in the entire evolution of it. So, the spirit of hip hop culture absolutely pervades all of these elements of how we live now as 30, 35, 40-year-olds. That's why you have like so many good-looking 50-year-old women, black women, or good-looking, 45-year-old black men, or like, it's
Watch
just
out now.
It's that swag. It's a swag. It's the swag that comes with culture. You know what I mean? It's an inner thing. And come on now.
Watch out now.
We
50-year-old,
know. Yeah.
50-year-old.
Look at Angela Bassett.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
Almost 60.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
Yeah, Hallie, 50, almost. Janet, almost 50.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
Okay. But
I like that, though.
but I'm just saying, like, it's like, I don't like that whole idea of like 30 is the new 20. It's not.
No.
That it's, I think we are able to retain our youth for longer periods of time. And I'm referring to attitude. And because we can retain the understanding of youth and live in youth, we are able to connect more with our younger brothers and sisters. We're able to connect more with the younger generations. Like, you look at Dr. Dre, who's in his 50s. He's working with Kendrick Lamar, who's 25, 26. Like, I'm going to always use these music elements because it's like, let's put this in perspective of how these interactions can work. And we 35, 34-year-olds, whatever, we can help a 25-year-old. We can help a 21-year-old. We can help an 18-year-old and actually have a real impact and not necessarily talk down to them, because truth is, we're still being talked down to the elder generations. I'm almost 34 years old, and some of the stuff that comes out of like some of my coworkers' mouths, for instance, who, they're getting close to retirement, been in this place 30 years or whatever, and like they automatically talk to you like you don't know anything. They automatically come at you like you don't know a thing. And it's like, no, I know something. I know to respect your experience. I know to seek your experience and seek your advice. But I'm not going to want to hear it if the first thing out of your mouth when you first meet me is, you're doing that wrong because of your age.
Generationally, of course, we know that kind of the groups all the way up to our parents were programmed by the establishment. Like, they were programmed by this established way. We use the word respectability. You got to do this to be as you know, as a black person in this society, you're supposed to be these kind of ways. And then here we come along, born into these beginning phases of what you call hip hop, which was created anti-establishment. The way that we know it, anti-establishment. So we've been conditioned in that whole establishment way because of our parents, but we got these inklings of, you ain't got to do it like that. You ain't got to do it like that. The music was speaking to us all the time. You ain't got to do it like that. And then that whole rhythm and vibe was bringing us closer to this point of just being in your truth.
And I think that we are a little bit ahead of the curve just because I think we're okay talking about it. We're okay acknowledging that it's there. Yeah. And, you know, and if you're putting it on a forum like this, you're always going to have somebody else that's going to hold you accountable, or someone's going to pull the receipts, right? I keep saying it because it's the truth. So, you know, it might be 20 years from now, and I might be acting stank with one of these boys sitting in the room, and they'll be able to pull this conversation that they heard me have with BG, you know? And that's the thing, the greatest thing, I think, in the world, one of the greatest things, is when you know that you're able to accept accountability. If you are able to be told you're wrong and you can hear it, that speaks volumes. That opens you up to so many things. So, and you know, and I'd like to think that, you know, we do that. You and I do that for each other. I think in our, whether it's individual circles or our entire collective circles, there's always someone that's kind of there checking you and saying you need to chill, or, you know, like, this is great, or encouraging you. It's not just that, you know, I'm going to hold you accountable by being rude. I can hold you accountable by giving you encouragement when you do get it right. So, and I think that that's definitely a generational thing, because I think that, you know, I grew up in a very supportive family, but it's not necessarily, my uncles and aunts and my mother have only become vocal about being prideful about us kids in maybe the last 15 years. You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't that anyone doubted it. It's just now it's very overt. Like, I have an uncle who, when I was a little kid, he didn't say I love you very often, but now he says it all the time. So it's just conditioning. And, you know, and you know, when you feel it, but it's cool when you can see that, you know, and you can even see that possible evolution just in how you interact with your family on a day-to-day basis.
All right, my friend. I think we have given the people enough perspective for one episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. Simone, let the people know how they can follow you, get in contact with you.
So you can hit me up on Instagram at The Shy Peacock, or you can go to theshypeacock.com. And I'm also The Shy Peacock on Facebook. So that's it. It's pretty easy.
That's it. Yeah. What I meant to say in the beginning was a leap year, so I hope all you ladies did what you were supposed to do. Hope you handled your business on Valentine's Day. If you're listening out there to my future Valentine, hit me up. I'm on Instagram at BG_the27kid. That's BG_DA27KID. I'm waiting on you. It can go down in the DM.
Stop.
Okay, I'll stop. This is the Retroscope Podcast. We are a member of the New South Movement Podcast Network, home to the South's hottest podcast, the Free Lunch Podcast, the Retroscope Podcast, the D1 Sports Talk, and the Girl Talk Podcast. You can catch us on iTunes and SoundCloud. Just search New South Movement. We'll be there. Be sure to listen. Be sure to subscribe. Until the next time, power to the people, middle finger to the haters.
I roll like that. Yeah, I'm thick like that. I stack like that. I'm down like that. I'm black like that.
Yo, I funk like that. I'm fat like that. I'm in like that cause I swing like that. We jazz like that. We freak like that. We zoom like that. We out. We out. We out.